Hey guys, it's Christy and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to be playing with the two new shades of the Charlotte Tilbury Hypnotizing Pop Shots. So before we get into it, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel before you leave. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy, and let's get into it. Alright, so Charlotte previously released the Hypnotizing Pop Shot Single Shadows for Holiday 2022, and according to her website, they were such a hit that she decided to release them as part of the Pillow Talk collection. I'm not sure if these shades are limited edition or permanent. I feel like they might be permanent because, again, they are part of the Pillow Talk line, and additionally, the other shades she released for holiday are now discontinued. So she did release two new shades. We have Pillow Talk Diamonds and we have Pillow Talk Ultraviolet. So these do come in the standard pink quilted Pillow Talk packaging. These also have a 24-month shelf life and are made in Italy. So one thing I noticed right away that is different, these are in the exact same components as the holiday shadows. They're just in this beautiful little square rose gold packaging with little gems on the front. The shades that were released for holiday had all different colors of gemstones on the front. These are just pink and purple, which I also think is really pretty, and I think it's a fun way to be able to tell them apart. One thing I will say about these single shadows is that they are $34 US or 41 Canadian, so they are not cheap, especially for a single shadow. So we're going to look at these. We're going to do some eye swatches. I'm going to do a look with one of them, and then we're going to look at some comparisons. So the first one I'm picking up is the Pillow Talk Ultraviolet, and from what I saw on the website, I'm not sure if this is still the case, but it looked like this is the one that sold out first, which I'm not surprised. I feel like we've all been waiting for a purple shadow from Charlotte for a long time. But this is a sparkling violet eyeshadow with a magic multi-dimensional finish for molten eyes to magnetize. So then we have Pillow Talk Diamonds. So this one is a sparkling rose gold eyeshadow with a crystal light shimmering foil finish, perfect for every Pillow Talk party. So one thing I wanted to mention, especially compared to the original two shades I picked up, is the Emerald Eyes, which was my absolute favorite from the holiday collection. This is also a foiled formula, so it is going to be a little bit drier to the touch and a little bit more, it's going to feel a little bit more chunky, but it is the most sparkly shade. It is absolutely stunning. I love this one. Pillow Talk Ultraviolet looks like it's going to be the exact same formula as the rose gold shadow. So this is very, very smooth to the touch, almost creamy. It reminds me almost of a ColourPop Super Shock shadow. And while it's very, very beautiful, I had commented that as much as I loved this, and I still do love this shade, I don't think it's as special. Let's look at some eye swatches. So Pillow Talk Ultraviolet, I'm going to pick it up with a finger. It feels just like the rose gold shade from the holiday collection. It feels very smooth to the touch, and oh, it's really, really pretty. I feel like this is beautiful. Okay, this is the beautiful, beautiful purple shadow I feel like we've been wanting from Charlotte for a long time. I don't know if she's ever had a really pretty purple shadow before. This is beautiful though. This is super pretty. I'm just gonna take a brush and blend around those edges. Okay, this is super, super pretty, but I'm gonna be honest, I'm pretty sure I have something very, very similar in my collection that I'm going to be able to show you. Let's look at Pillow Talk Diamonds, which is the more rose gold shade. And this one is more of that foiled effect, much like Emerald Eyes. That is very, very pretty. Ooh, that's beautiful. Yes, it's very much giving me a similar effect to Emerald Eyes. Okay, this one's beautiful. I really thought I was gonna lose my mind for the Ultraviolet shade, but this seems to be the one that's bringing me the most joy. And I think it's just that ultra foiled kind of formula like Emerald Eyes, which is why I love it so much. Yeah, you could absolutely wear this one on its own. That's really, really pretty. I love that. Okay, so here is a side by side of the two shades. So we have Pillow Talk Diamonds on this side, Pillow Talk Ultraviolet on this side, and this is what they both look like. As you can see, Pillow Talk Ultraviolet is definitely not nearly as sparkly, but it's got that really pretty violet shift, which I think is beautiful. Pillow Talk Diamonds is just going to give you so much impact with that sparkle. It's that same foiled formula as she had with Emerald Eyes that I was absolutely in love with, and I just love how impactful that sparkle is and how little you actually have to use. Whereas Pillow Talk Ultraviolet seems to be the exact same formula as the Rose Gold shade from the holiday collection. Very, very smooth, but not a formula you can't get in other palettes. So I will say that. Okay, I think I want to do a look with the Pillow Talk Diamonds today, so I'm going to take this off and I will be right back. Alright guys, so here is the final look. The Pillow Talk Diamond shade is really super beautiful and impactful. I'm really loving it. All I did was I put that shade all over the lid, and then I grabbed my Pillow Talk quad, and then I took the pink enhanced shade. I threw that in the crease just to blend out the edges a bit, and then I took the prime shade in the inner corners, threw on some mascara, and we have a really simple look that I really, really love and think is very, very pretty. I know the shade that most people are curious about is the Ultraviolet shade, and I'm going to assume that's true because it is appearing as sold out on the website, which I think is so unfortunate. But if you didn't get your hands on this, I have some very close dupes. So let's take a look. So right here I have Pillow Talk Ultraviolet. These two middle shades are both far more impactful, and they come from the ABH Norvina Volume 5. The shade A3 is the one directly on top of the Ultraviolet shade, and then I have E3, which is on top of that. So the second from the top. A3 is the very closest. I think they're so close, and I honestly think you get a lot more sparkle and impact from it than the Charlotte Tilbury. This top shade, which is probably the most different, but also has that really beautiful violet blue shift to it, is from the Viseart Violette Étendue palette. So this shade here is the top swatch on my hand, and it is the same. So if you have the Norvina Volume 5 or you have the Viseart palette, you already have the Ultraviolet shade from Charlotte Tilbury, but in my opinion better. I do think the Ultraviolet shade is pretty, but I think any of these three are more vibrant and impactful, and I would much rather use those. This costs $34. You can get these for not too much more than that. So I would recommend, if you have either of those palettes, skip the Charlotte Tilbury. I just don't think you need it, especially when these similar shades are even better. Alright, let's look at some comparisons of the Pillow Talk Diamond shade, and this one I found harder to dupe. So on this hand I have Pillow Talk Diamonds on the top, so you'll see I couldn't get an exact match anywhere. I did struggle with that, which tells me that this is a more unique shade. So the first palette I pulled out is the NARS Summer Unrated palette, and I pulled out the shade Summer Moon, and that is shade number 2 on my hand. So you'll see they're very similar in consistency and texture. The tone is a little bit different, but I think they would look very similar on the eyes. Then I looked at the Patrick Ta Major Dimension Rose palette. So this palette is such a favorite of mine, and if I had to compare the actual texture of the Pillow Talk Diamond shade, I would describe it as one of these top 3. It's very, very similar in texture to these 3 sparkly shades in the Patrick Ta. So the only one I thought might be similar was the shade Romance, and it is shade number 3 right here. They're not as similar as I expected either, so that didn't work out, but I do want to say texture-wise, very, very similar. So if you're just wondering what that feels like, I would say the Pillow Talk Ultraviolet, that texture is much more like, I don't want to say it's just like a ColourPop Super Shock, but it reminds me sort of that texture, and that it is quite smooth to the touch, whereas Pillow Talk Diamonds is a more foiled shade, so the texture is much more like the shimmers in the Patrick Ta. And the last shade on my hand is also not identical, but I pulled this one from the ABH Primrose palette. It is the shade Peony. So looking through my collection, Pillow Talk Diamonds was actually much harder to dupe than Pillow Talk Ultraviolet. Honestly, you probably have the Ultraviolet shade if you have, especially if you have Norvina Volume 5 or you have the Viseart Violette Étendue. You definitely have that shade, and it's not necessary, which is crazy to me because it's the one that sold out. But if you have either of those palettes, I would just stick with those rather than spending $34 on a single shadow. However, if you're looking to pick one up, I would grab the Pillow Talk Diamonds. The shade is more unique than the Ultraviolet shade, and so is the texture. And I had a similar recommendation when it came to the holiday shades. Emerald Eyes was that foiled formula, whereas Rose Gold was more of that, kind of reminded me of a ColourPop Super Shock. So I don't think the ones that have that Super Shock kind of formula are worth it, because you could probably find it in a ColourPop Super Shock and spend $9 as opposed to $34. So while I think this is super beautiful, it's unfortunately not unique in my collection. The Pillow Talk Diamonds, hopefully you can see on camera how sparkly this is on the lids, how much impact it had when I swatched it on my hand, and I said the exact same thing about the foiled shades from the holiday collection. So the foiled ones are definitely the way to go when she releases these, and even though they're foiled, I do not think they enhance texture on my lids. I just love the beautiful sparkle that they give to the eyes. So I think these are both super beautiful. I hope the comparisons were helpful to you. Again, Ultraviolet, it's really not as unique as I thought it was going to be, and Pillow Talk Diamonds is somehow more unique than I thought. And Pillow Talk Diamonds is of course just a pink sparkly shadow, which I'm sure all of us have, but there is something about the tone of this that I think is super beautiful, and there is something about the shine of this that I love. And I just love how it doesn't enhance texture or anything like that on the lids. It just looks so, so beautiful. And I also wanted to mention I didn't get any fallout with this one. I thought for sure I would. I didn't get any. So I think if you're going to pick one up, I would absolutely recommend Pillow Talk Diamonds just for the formula and uniqueness of it, whereas Pillow Talk Ultraviolet, it's not unique in either shade or formula. So unfortunately, I don't highly recommend the Ultraviolet. It's pretty, I just can't recommend it. Whereas Pillow Talk Diamonds, I think if you were eyeing it up, I don't think you would be disappointed. So that is it for me today. Let me know down below if you picked either of these up or if you're planning on it. I love hearing from you guys. Thank you so very much for watching. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I do upload at least 3 new videos every single week, and I upload everything from Charlotte Tilbury if you're interested in that. So thank you again so very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!